If you are over 60 and feel your legs getting weaker, the problem may be the fruits you eat. Some of them increase inflammation, hinder circulation, and make muscles soft. In this video, I will show you the 8 fruits that most harm the strength of your legs, and what to do to avoid this. You'll be surprised to find that some of these fruits are part of many people's breakfast every day. Worse still, many older people think they're doing the right thing, when in fact they're accelerating muscle weakness and even worsening pain that could be avoided. But there's still time to change, and in today's video, you'll understand what's behind this problem and how to protect your leg strength with simple, surefire choices. Enough beating around the bush, let's get to the first fruit on the list: sweetened dried fruits. Imagine the following scene. You open the kitchen cupboard and, without thinking twice, grab a handful of dried apricots, raisins, or dried figs. A quick, supposedly healthy snack. You may even feel like you're making the right choice. After all, it's fruit, right? But behind that soft texture and the label that says natural, there may be a hidden enemy, especially for those who already feel more tired. When a fruit is dehydrated, it loses almost all of its water, but concentrates everything that remains, including sugar. A fresh apricot may be light and balanced, but dried apricots become a small packet of glucose. Now, when this fruit also undergoes a sweetening process, common in many industrialized versions, it becomes something much closer to a dessert than a nutritious food. Over the years, the body becomes more sensitive to these sugar spikes, and this sensitivity first appears in the places that require the most energy: the legs. After consuming these sweetened fruits, the sugar enters the bloodstream quickly. There is a fleeting feeling of energy, and then soon after the crash, your legs feel heavy. Your body shows signs of fatigue, and that vigor that seemed to be returning escapes again. In addition, the industrialization process often includes preservatives, oils, and even dyes to add shine or preserve texture. These additives are not neutral. They can cause silent internal inflammation that accumulates over time. The result is subtle: discomfort when walking, weakness that comes and goes, pains that seem to have no explanation. But it all starts there, in what seems small and harmless. The habit of snacking on sweetened dried fruit every day may be sabotaging your efforts to maintain vitality. And often, all you need to regain control is to make small, more conscious choices. Now let's talk about the second nut on this list. But before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and take the opportunity to comment on where you're watching from. It's amazing to see how this content is reaching people in so many places around the world. The second fruit on our list is bananas. Have you ever had that feeling that your legs just don't respond like they used to, that they lack firmness, stability, or that you get tired too quickly? Perhaps the answer lies in a habit so common that we don't even think twice about it: eating bananas. Yes, bananas are a fruit full of qualities, rich in potassium, practical, tasty. They're part of breakfast, afternoon snacks, before a walk. They seem harmless, but the truth is that over time, the body changes, and what was once good for you can start to get in the way. The biggest problem is with very ripe bananas, those with black spots on the skin, which are very sweet. The riper they are, the higher their glycemic index. This means that the sugar they contain enters the bloodstream very quickly, causing a surge of artificial energy. But the body, especially after the age of 60, does not like this kind of variation. It feels it, and it takes its toll. After this spike comes what many already know: an energy crash. The feeling that your legs are slower, that you lack strength for simple movements, or even a slight tremor. And what seems like just a sweet fruit can, little by little, contribute to this cycle. In addition, potassium, which is indeed important, can also be harmful when consumed in excess, especially if the kidneys are no longer functioning as efficiently as before. It can cause fluid retention, which directly affects comfort and lightness in the legs. Swelling, cramps, vague pains. Signs that are not always associated with bananas, but should be. Another detail is density. Silver or earth bananas, for example, are heavier on the digestive system, and slow digestion interferes with the entire functioning of the body. The intestines feel heavy, metabolism slows down, and the effects appear where they require the most effort, in the legs and in everyday movements. This is not about turning bananas into villains, but after a certain age, the body begins to show more clearly what is working and what is getting in the way. And if you feel your strength is fading, it is worth observing whether what seems normal is actually draining your energy. Third on this list are grapes. Have you ever stopped to think how some things that seem harmless are precisely the ones that catch us off guard? Grapes, for example. They are small, pretty, sweet, and convey an image of purity, as if they were the ideal snack. But when it comes to health, especially leg strength, these seemingly innocent little balls can hide more than you think. What many people don't know is that grapes are very rich in fructose, a type of natural sugar that, in large quantities, can wreak havoc on the body's balance. The problem is that it's very easy to overdo it. You don't eat 2 or 3 grapes. You eat a whole bunch, sometimes without even realizing it. And when you turn them into juice, the sugar concentration rises even higher, and the fiber, which would help balance everything out, is left out. What does this mean in practice? That the body receives an intense and sudden spike in glucose. Energy skyrockets, but it doesn't last long. And when it crashes, the feeling is well known to anyone over 60. Wobbly legs, loss of firmness, a sluggishness that doesn't fit with the rest of the day. It's as if something is draining your strength without warning. In addition, this type of constant variation in blood sugar feeds silent inflammatory processes. It is not a sharp pain. It is something more subtle, a feeling of heaviness in the legs, discomfort when walking, or difficulty getting up from a chair without support. And this impact accumulates over time, day after day. The situation gets worse with raisins. As the name suggests, they are a dehydrated version of grapes, meaning that everything is more concentrated, especially the sugar. A small handful can contain more glucose than a piece of processed candy, and if you eat them thinking you are eating fruit, your body will feel it and make you pay for it. If you feel that your body is less firm, if your legs give way for no apparent reason, it's worth looking at these details. Because what seems natural is not always neutral, and often the cause of your weakness may be coming from the most unlikely place, the bunch of grapes in your fruit bowl at home. Next item on the list: dates. It's curious how small foods can have such big effects. Dates, for example, are often seen as a healthy substitute for sweets, small, shiny, with an intense sweet flavor. But it is precisely this concentrated sweetness that deserves attention, especially if you have been feeling your legs weaker, heavier, or less stable than before. Each date carries a significant amount of natural sugar. But natural doesn't always mean safe. A serving of 3 dates can contain more than 60 calories and almost 20 grams of sugar. That's almost the same as a chocolate bar, but with the appearance of a healthy food. And that's where the risk lies. You believe you're making a good choice while your body tries to cope with an excess of glucose that arrives quickly and with force. When this sugar enters the bloodstream, the body responds with energy for a short time. Soon after, the crash comes. A feeling of exhaustion, that weakness that starts in the leg muscles, unsteadiness when walking, and increasing difficulty in keeping up with simple tasks. Sounds exaggerated? It's not. For those who already feel the impact of age on their metabolism, these constant peaks and crashes directly affect physical performance. In addition, many dates found in markets are artificially sweetened or dipped in syrup to make them softer and more appealing. This process adds even more glucose, transforming something that was already dense in sugar into a veritable energy bomb in disguise. The body, already overloaded, responds with mild but constant inflammation. And the reflection of this silent inflammation appears where you least expect it. Discomfort when walking, pain in the knees, lack of strength when climbing stairs. Dates are not just any snack. They are intense, concentrated, and, when consumed frequently or in excess, can do more harm than good, especially if what you are trying to regain is energy and strength in your legs. Now, let's move on to the 5th item: pineapple. Have you ever noticed how pineapple always appears when we want to cleanse the body? It is refreshing, just the right amount of sour, and seems light. But not everything that refreshes is harmless. In fact, pineapple may be silently hindering your muscle recovery, especially in your legs. Its tropical appearance and vibrant taste hide an important detail. Pineapple is a highly acidic fruit. For some organisms, this acidity can be beneficial, helping to digest heavy meals. But for those who already have a more sensitive body, as happens with age, frequent consumption can cause constant irritation. And this irritation doesn't just affect the stomach. It reverberates throughout the body, causing minor inflammation that, over time, affects the joints, muscles, and especially the legs. There is also bromelain, an enzyme naturally present in pineapple, known to aid in the breakdown of proteins. It has its advantages, but when consumed in excess, it can cause intestinal discomfort, abdominal pain, and even inflammatory reactions in those who are sensitive. When the digestive system becomes unbalanced, the impact appears in unexpected ways: loss of energy, difficulty walking, and a feeling of muscle instability. And let's not forget the fruit's glycemic index. Although not as high as other fruits, pineapple can still cause variations in blood sugar when consumed in large quantities, especially in juice form. Remove the fiber, increase the volume, and you'll have a burst of liquid sugar entering your body without any breaks. And when glucose rises too quickly, the body pays with a crash that comes soon after. The result: fatigue, loss of strength, and that feeling that your legs are giving out. Pineapple is also commonly eaten on an empty stomach, which intensifies its acidic effect. For a sensitive stomach, this is an invitation to discomfort. And when digestive discomfort sets in, the body's response is not limited to the belly. It affects mood, sleep, and overall physical ability. Pineapple can be tasty, yes, but for those who are feeling more fragile and want to maintain vitality in their legs, it is essential to watch how often and in what form this fruit appears on your plate. Because sometimes what seems light is weighing more than we think. Next item on the list: mango. Mango has that sweet smell that fills the house. Yellow, creamy, full of flavor, it's hard to resist. Throughout life, it has always been remembered as a nutritious fruit, good for digestion, full of vitamins. But what many people don't realize is that after the age of 60, the body no longer reacts as it once did. And certain fruits, such as mango, can be silently draining your energy. What makes mango a hidden risk is precisely its sweetness. It is one of the fruits with the highest concentration of fructose. This natural sugar, when consumed in excess, overloads the liver, and an overloaded liver does not respond with immediate pain. It responds slowly. You start to notice that you are more tired, that your legs can't handle the same amount of walking, that simple activities require more effort than before. Another point worth noting is the glycemic index of mangoes. It is high. When you eat a whole mango, or worse, drink a glass of concentrated juice, your body receives a heavy load of glucose. This causes the famous roller coaster effect. Glucose rises quickly, giving you a false burst of energy, and then crashes. This abrupt drop translates into weakness. And where does this weakness appear first? In your legs. They lose stability, the feeling of firmness diminishes, and walking requires more effort than it should. In addition, excess fructose is linked to increased liver fat and systemic inflammation. In the long term, this compromises not only your muscles but also your body's metabolic response. Energy no longer circulates as it did before. Muscle recovery slows down, and diffuse pain, especially in the joints of the legs and hips, becomes more frequent. This does not mean that you need to eliminate mangoes from your life, but it is important to rethink how often you eat them, how large your portions are, and, above all, how you consume them. A whole fruit on an empty stomach, for example, may seem harmless, but it may be contributing directly to that feeling of exhaustion that you cannot explain. Over the years, the body begins to demand more balance than excess, and often, trading abundance for moderation is what makes the difference between chronic fatigue and preserved vitality. Next item: watermelon. Watermelon is almost synonymous with summer. Sweet, light, full of water. It seems perfect for hydrating and refreshing, and for many years it has been treated as a health ally. But there's a difference between refreshing and sustaining. And if you've been feeling your legs getting weaker, tired, or less steady, you may need to take a closer look at this fruit. The first pitfall is its glycemic index. Although it's mostly water, watermelon has one of the highest glycemic indexes of any fruit. This means that the sugar in it is absorbed quickly by the body. And, as we have seen in other cases, this type of rapid absorption generates a spike in energy, followed by a sharp drop. What comes next? Tiredness, instability, a feeling of weak legs and loss of muscle control even without intense effort. Another detail that few people mention is that, although watermelon seems light, you need to pay attention to how much you eat. Precisely because it is refreshing and easy to chew, we end up eating more than we realize. 3, 4 slices, and the body receives a high dose of sugar all at once. This is even more problematic when watermelon is consumed alone, without any fiber, protein, or fat to balance it out. In addition, because it is extremely rich in liquids, it can cause abdominal distension in some people. This interferes with digestion and the overall feeling of lightness, and a compromised digestive system affects not only the stomach, but also physical well-being. When digestion is heavy, the whole body responds slowly, and this reflex appears where we feel it most, in the legs. And there is another relevant point: eating watermelon at night, a common habit on hot days. It seems like a light option before bed, but it can disrupt sleep. Excess fluids activate the kidneys during the night, causing you to wake up more often. The next day, the result is a body without vigor, more tired legs, and below normal physical performance. Our last item on the list is fruit in syrup. Perhaps you've opened one of those silver cans, seen the shiny peaches cut into perfect slices and immersed in a sweet liquid, and thought, "It's fruit. It can't be bad for you." But this inviting appearance hides something that the label does not always clearly reveal. What's inside may be doing much more harm than good, especially for those who are struggling with leg weakness. The syrup in these fruits is not just water and sugar. In many cases, it is a concentrated mixture of glucose syrup, sucrose, and preservatives. The result? An explosion of refined sugar that enters the body quickly, intensely, and without any defense. The fruit, which originally contained fiber, vitamins, and balance, loses all of that during the industrial process. What remains is flavor, texture, and excess glucose. The body of those over 60 feels this impact more directly. It's not just sugar that rises, it's energy that becomes unbalanced. You feel like you woke up well, but after a dessert with fruit and syrup, you get that jolt. Sudden tiredness, legs that can't keep up with your thoughts, slight dizziness when you stand up. These are minor symptoms, but when added together, they indicate an imbalance. In addition, these foods are loaded with chemical additives that, even in small doses, fuel internal inflammation. And this inflammation, which does not cause fever or immediate pain, directly affects the muscles, especially in the legs and joints that are most stressed. Over time, this wear and tear translates into chronic pain, muscle weakness, and an increased risk of falls, something no one can afford to ignore at this stage of life. Another often overlooked point is the psychological effect. Because the taste is sweet and pleasant, you end up eating more than you should without realizing it. The false sense of eating something healthy ends up masking the real damage that is accumulating day after day. Fruit in syrup is a dessert, not a functional food. And when you're trying to preserve energy and mobility, knowing the difference between these things is essential. You may not have noticed, but your body has been trying to talk to you for some time. Maybe it's that tiredness that comes too early, or the feeling that your legs are not as steady as they used to be. Minor aches and pains, energy slumps, loss of balance. Things that seem natural as we age, but are often just silent responses to the choices we make every day. Throughout our lives, we have learned to trust fruit. It has been placed on a pedestal of healthy foods, almost untouchable. But the body changes, and with it, our needs, limits, and effects also change. What was good for you at 30 may simply stop working at 60. Insisting on the same choices and expecting different results is a common mistake, but an easy one to correct. It's not about eliminating everything you like, nor is it about turning your diet into a battlefield. It's about understanding that excess, format, timing, and even how certain foods reach your plate make all the difference. An overripe fruit, a fiber-free juice, a syrup full of sugar. Each of these details may seem small, but the impact accumulates over time. And that impact shows up right where you feel it most. In your legs, your balance, your independence. Strength isn't lost all at once. It slips away slowly, without making a sound. But the good news is that it can also come back, with awareness, attention to the signs, and small decisions that are more in line with what your body needs now, not what it needed 20 years ago. Your body speaks. And when you learn to listen, you discover that many of the answers you were looking for are right there, in your simplest routines.